happy to introduce our Be the Ripple Behaviours series, which is going to be led by the lovely Francisco Reyes, who's the co-founder of Behave4. So hi, Francisco, how are you?
Fine, doing great. Very happy to be here with you to talk about this kind of content, because I think it's really pertinent today.
You're a specialist in behaviours, and that has a big impact within workplaces. So what you're going to be doing is some bite-sized chunks of learning for people around the topics of behaviours and what impact that has in the workplace, and then hopefully some tips as to what we can do to have positive behaviours. The first behaviour we're going to talk about, and I think it's a great one to start off with because it has a really big impact in workplaces, is envy, isn't it? So tell me, Francisco, what is envy?
Well, probably everybody knows what envy means, because they felt sometimes, or it's not possible to not to feel envious, or sometimes in our life, in the workplace, and so on. But today I'm going to share with our audience the technical definition, in terms of behavioral economics. Behavioral economics is the science behind our business, and technically, envy is the aversion to unequal distributions, when I get less than others, and it drives me to a negative, or to a negative emotion or a negative state. This is the shortest definition. Averse, when you are averse to unequal distributions, and you get less than others. Typically.
Okay, so would envy be, you could say that it's the same as jealousy, or is it slightly different?
I think it's a little, it's like there are nuances here, because we need to to take care about what is one thing or another. I think envy can lead to jealousy.
Okay.
Jealousy is an emotion, right? And probably jealousy is led by sometimes by envy. Because when I am not able to close the gap between my expectations as individual and the real life that I live in, this can lead to jealous, to be jealous, or to jealousy, because I envy other teammates or people or friends, even family, and I think there are nuances. There are too close. But I think, in my opinion, envy can lead to different kind of negative, or negative behaviors, like or emotions, in this case, like jealousy, fear, for instance, too.
Yeah. That's really interesting. And so if we could put it into the context of a workplace, then how might envy come across within a workplace? Have you got an example of how we could potentially kind of spot it within workplaces?
There are many examples. I think everybody can observe this kind of behavior, or envious behavior in the workplace. When the typical example is when someone is promoted in an organization, I feel that I should be promoted instead of that person because I'm more valuable. These kind of things are affecting teams in the workplace daily. And I think there are many implications behind it, and it is very related to the culture, to our company culture. Is if our culture is focused on competition, only on wild competition, because we think that if people compete harder, they are going to be more productive, or they are going to perform better. This can lead envious behavior in a bad sense, and probably can lead to other negative behavior like spitefulness.
Uh-huh.
Spitefulness, I think, is the consequence, can be the consequence of feeling envious, because I get less than you, but I'm not successful, but I don't want you to success too, and I'm doing, it's like the tall poppy, tall poppy syndrome.
Poppy syndrome.
Exactly. When someone is remarkable, people tend to tear them down, because
Yeah.
you are success, or you are successful, and I'm not. But I think this is related with it's so subjective, because we have to deal with the perception of success, and everybody, it's like a happiness, if you ask people about happiness, everybody has an opinion about happiness, or what happiness is. And I think is in terms of success in a organization or in the workplace is much the same. But often, in my opinion, success is not related to be promoted, or to have more money than you, or this kind of things. No, but we need to, I think, as leaders or HR managers, we have the responsibility to communicate this better, and to create this psychological safety, to listen to our people, to our team, when they are feeling negative emotions that can lead to an envious behavior.
Absolutely. And I think that you've got a really good point there about the leaders and the HR being really vital in this, because that's what's going to drive the culture, where people can actually be honest about the way that they're feeling. And if they've got some maybe envious feelings, or they've got some jealousy, or whatever it is, then they could actually openly discuss that or reflect on that themselves. But that's a skill that needs to be developed, isn't it, throughout the organization? And I like what you said there as well about it's important to not look at creating a competitive environment, but instead having a collaborative environment where it's about team wins as opposed to individual wins.
Yeah, absolutely. In my experience as a professional, and even when we are working with big corps, foster collaboration and foster cooperation is critical. It's critical to avoid envious behavior. And another important thing is, don't play favorites with your employees. Because this feeling that I'm privileged, more privileged, I have more privilege than you, because the boss is my friend. This kind of behavior sometimes can lead to an envious behavior, and to jealousy, and to this spitefulness. And even when you have created these close relationships between, if you are a manager, I'm talking if you are a manager, between you and your team, you have to take care, and you have to be egalitarian, right, with everybody.
Yeah.
Because this can lead to, again, a non-desirable behavior in the workplace. In my opinion, and I think we can give, or we can share with HR people, or managers, or even owners, that it's our responsibility to foster a collaborative environment, a cooperative environment, where transparency, honesty, and communication are the pillars of this environment. And if we are able to do that, or at least we are focused on that, we are going to be closer to have a healthy workplace, right? In this case.
Yeah, absolutely. So with regard to tips, if we think about envy, we know that it can have really negative impacts within the workplace. Now, I thought what was interesting when we shared a blog post that you'd written recently, there was talk about that there can be a positive aspect to envy as well.
Yes.
So I found
Yeah.
really surprising, because I always think of it as a negative.
As negative.
Absolutely. So I'm really interested to find out, how can it be positive?
Yeah, and many people tend to think that it is antisocial behavior, right? But
Yeah.
the reality is, if we balance, the critical point is, or the key point is, if we are able to balance envy and compassion, right? Compassion is here. We can't forget compassion. If we are able to balance compassion and envy can foster or can help you thrive. Because you only, there are many examples of people that are competing with themselves instead against others,
Yeah.
like Usain Bolt, for instance.
Yes.
He's competing with the time, with the chrono, against anybody. And when you raise this awareness, and when you are able to step back and think, okay, I'm feeling envious, I'm envy, or I feel envy this, or I have envy this person. You need to reflect the cause, the origin of this negative emotion. And if you find the balance, if you are more assertive, if you are more empathetic, probably you are going to combine envy and compassion. And when you have this balance, envy is good, because it's going to push you to compete against yourself. Obviously, we need to find a balance for not being so hard with yourself, right? Because perfectionism, or if you are so demanding on yourself, is a negative too. But we need to find this balance. And envy sometimes can lead you to a better perform, to be more productive, or to be more engaged with yourself.
That's really interesting. And I'd never looked at it in that way at all. So it's really interesting when I read your blog and speaking to you now. It's really interesting to see that you can balance it. And I can totally understand how that would work for you to improve your own performance. So if an organization wants to make sure that there's less envy of a negative type within the workplace, what can they do? What tips would you give them?
Well, in my opinion, and here I can't be subjective. In my opinion, they should measure their people first, because for an HR or for HR manager, it's almost yet impossible to figure out this envious behavior in a subjective manner. And we need to measure, because the main issue here is if I ask you, okay, Joanna, are you envious? Which is gonna be your answer to that? No, I'm not envious. No, of course not. Of course not. No, and you have this issue with self-reported, conversations, because people don't want to lie, but even when they don't want to lie, they lie. Because it is in an unconscious level, and we need to use different tools to find or to figure out what is the level of envy in our organizations, in a particular team that is underperforming or it is toxic. Because if we don't cope it, probably we are gonna destroy this cohesiveness, right? And in my opinion, the first is to measure it. Then when you have measured that, you can act, right?
Absolutely. Yeah, and I'd agree with you. And I think that you wouldn't like necessarily to admit that you've got this envious feeling, because it's got negative connotations surrounding it. But also, you'd have to be really self-aware, wouldn't you, to know that you are an envious person or you have felt envious. So I think, again, that goes back to your transparent culture, making sure that people have emotional intelligence, that the culture is open enough that people can discuss these kinds of things. So is there anything that you would add about the behavior of envy that anybody should know before we close?
Well, people should know that envy is never alone. Envy is related to other emotions, right? You can set envy aside. Only alone, I'm feeling envious. No, because it's related with many melting pot of emotions. Most of the time in an unconscious way. But as managers or leaders or HR, we need to assure that we are building a culture where people can talk, where people can communicate their feelings. And I'm personally, I'm starting to have these conversations more frequently with friends, with family, with colleagues, with folks, because it's required. It's required to show what my feelings are, and then you can identify, if you are measuring that first, you can identify the dynamics. If you know the underpinnings behind a team dynamic, you can change the environment. Your organizational environment. You can coach them. You can help them to thrive, and you can raise this awareness, because at the end of the day, and probably this is a problem caused by our society, because the society pushes us to be competitive, to compare with other people, like, continuously. A better home, a better car, more money, a better status, these kind of things. To be thin, to be beautiful, and these kind of things. And we need to teach our in our organizations that what is important is collaboration, and obviously this is about people. And if you know your people better, if you engage with them, if you provide them with the appropriate tools to thrive, and probably we are gonna stop this kind of envious behavior.
Yeah.
Obviously, it's difficult. I'm not saying that it's easy, but obviously it's difficult. But it should be intentional, right? We need to be focused on that, and then we are going to take small steps to reach that goal.
Absolutely, I agree with you. And I think you made a good point there about everybody comparing themselves to other people and sizing themselves up. And again, that goes back to the tall poppy piece, where it's comparing yourself to other people. And I think the lovely phrase that I always keep in mind is comparison is the thief of joy. So if you're comparing yourself against other people, you'll never size up to everybody. So just go with your own path and collaborate with other people and be yourself. I think that's the lesson there, really, isn't it?
Yeah, well, the last phrase that came up listening to you was, your work is not your worth, right? And we need to be aware of that. And you are valuable, independently of your work or your particular situation or circumstance. And we need to raise this awareness, right?
Absolutely. And hopefully with this lovely series that you're running, Francisco, we'll be able to do that. So thank you so much for talking to me today about envy. It's been really interesting. I think I've learned a thing or two there, and hopefully everybody else will have as well. If people would like to get in touch with you, do they just get in touch with you via your website or via LinkedIn? What's your preference?
Well, I'm in all social media networks. They can reach me out on Twitter, because I'm very active there, as you know, and on LinkedIn too. But through our website is perfect too. But directly, Twitter on LinkedIn.
Okay. All right. That's fantastic. Well, thank you very much, Francisco. And I'll speak to you again very soon with regard to the next part of the
Sure,
series.
my pleasure.
Thank you very
My
much.
pleasure.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye.